Flora, nice to meet you. Today's update. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hello. Hi, Joanna. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
这是我们那边啊，对。有给他吗？
I know. I just thought. And hello. Hi. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Hi, I'm glad to meet you. Good to see you. Charles. Oh, hi, to see you again. Heidi. Heidi. 正文我都不怎么读了，我太喜欢你的小字。我看老板是后头的对接生活的。Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. How many of you is this first time at the state capitol? Good. I'm so glad you're here. Well, this is your state house. This is the people's house, and that's why it's so important to have so many faces here, because this is the building that you all, as taxpayers pay for, and we do your business here at the State House. This is the State Senate. Across the way, when you walked in, you saw there was a rose garden, and on the other side is the State House of Representatives, and in the tower right in the front with the dome, and then there was a statue on top, that's the governor's office. So you're right here where we make all of the laws, and it's an exciting place, not only to work, but to serve all of the people here in Arizona. So thank you for being here. I think this is a wonderful time to introduce everyone. If we would like to go around the room so that everyone knows who everyone is, I think that would be a very good start. I'll begin. I'm State Senator Kimberly Yee. I'm the Senate Majority Leader here in the Arizona Senate, and I represent the Legislative District 20, which is Northwest Phoenix and parts of Glendale. And I am just, proud to serve not only the state of Arizona, but obviously the Asian American community that we have here, and the growing Asian American community that we have in Arizona and across the nation. So it is a joy, truly, to see so many faces here to be engaged about a government issue. So we'll go ahead and start. Raymond, would you like to begin?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Raymond Tang. I'm the president of the Chinese United Association of the Greater Phoenix. Thank you for the opportunity to let us voice our opinion.
Yes.
I'm Check Yee. I am the secretary in English for the Chinese United Association of Greater Phoenix. And when I understood there was some concerns in the community, I'm the person who wrote the main points so that was background for this meeting. I don't know how many of you received that by email or by WeChat, but we tried to get that information out. If anyone did not get it and would like to see it afterwards, you can come give me your email. I'm not on WeChat, so you have to give me an email and I can send it to you.
I'm Jack Yee, and I'm here as an observer.
That's Uncle Jack.
Welcome, Jack.
Albert Lin, I'm the current president of the Arizona Asian American Association. And thank you, Senator Yee, you take your busy schedule to meet us, have some concern, and we are very proud of it. And you're the only Asian in the state Congress, and you know you will always have our support.
I'm Elaine Wong. I'm president of Phoenix Chinese Week, but I'm also Assistant Secretary of the National Chinese American Citizens Alliance.
Lloyd Asado, I'm the Executive Director for Asian Pacific Community in Action. We're a community health organization here in Arizona. Thanks.
My name is John Yee. Everybody call me Uncle John. I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest one on this. Oh, 90 years old.
Wow.
I've been service for this Chinese community since 1949. A long time. But that's a Chinese part. The English, not much. Okay. Anything I do the right, okay. If I do something wrong, please excuse. Thank you very much.
Gary Yang from the Chinese United of Greater Phoenix. It's a pleasure. So good to see so many people here.
Jeff Yuan, Yuan Yahua, AZAA Chinese Association, the president.
I'm Xi Qiang, Michael Xi. I'm honorary president of the Association of Chinese American Scientists and Engineers Association.
Chen Min, I'm a citizen and I'm come here to voice our concern.
Ken Shen, observer as well.
All right, my name is Xiaolu. I'm one of the board member of AZAA. So let's just start from our AZAA president, introduce from their side.
Sure. My name is Frank Zhang. I'm the president of Arizona Asian Alliance, AZAA. AZAA is a group that is devoted to facilitate the unity of local Asian communities, and we actively participate and involve in public affairs that impact our Asian communities. So I really like Senator Yee to provide us this opportunity to have us come here and express our opinions. I personally also like to thank all people who put their work aside and came to this meeting. Because I know many of you have a job to do, a school to attend, or a vacation to go maybe, right? But you all decided to come here for this meeting because you are concerned. Thank you for coming.
My name is Andy Zham. I'm the vice president of the same organization. I'm here. I will be presenting our case later, after Mr. Sato with the background of the SCR control. And thank you, Senator, for giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
Hi, nice to see everybody. My name is Sam Huang. I'm glad to see so many people and so many familiar faces, and very nice to see Senator Yee. Thank you.
My name is Jin Chen, and I'm the secretary of the AZAA, the same organization. And this is the no identity I will represent today, but I will represent a group of Trump supporters which are silenced. So that's why I wear the cap.
I wanted to mention that Andy Zhang is the first person who actually had this idea of flying banner for Trump, and then it was echoed by 20 more cities. They will all did that. Nationwide flying banner for
national movement.
Trump. Yes, thank you. My name is Jennifer Yang. My Chinese name is Yang Ping. I'm the president and founder of American Valley Fever Association. It's a new association. We would like to find out, to advocate and also fundraise for valley fever research. So thank you for this opportunity for me to be here.
Yeah, my name is Sherry Man. I'm a voter in District 19.
And my name is Kilo. I'm a member of the AZAA with
Hi.
Yes, Barry Wong, former state legislator.
Tony, a member of the Chinese United Association, also original and come from Taiwan, so I like working with everybody in the Chinese community. Thank you.
My name is Yu, I'm an engineer. Thank you, everybody. My name is Li Liang, just coming back from the overseas trip. Still got some jet lag. But I felt this is very important, so
Absolutely. Thanks for coming.
Sure.
My name is Hao Feng. I'm the founder of cookies.
My name is Connie. I'm his wife. I'm Laura Feng. I'm a citizen in Chandler. I'm a Santa Claus supporter. And also I'm a board member for Valley Fever Association.
I'm Lily Wang. I'm from the Arizona Chinese News. I'm a reporter.
Hi everyone, my name is Joanna and I'm a student reporter for Bunkai News.
Hi, I'm Jim Chen. I'm a state employee, happen to be the state demographer. So I'm interested in anything about the population. I heard about this, so I just want to come here to get educated.
Hi everyone, my name is Ying Li. I'm a computer science student here for sporting.
Hi, I'm Li Jun. Jay, just coming here for this
I'm Joe Yee. I'm president of the E-Phone Toy Association, also vice president of United.
I'm Yue Huang. I'm a resident. I'm a citizen from North Phoenix. I come here only because I'm very concerned about this resolution.
Hi, I'm Selena Tong. I'm a citizen and I work at Mayo Clinic, so I'm a healthcare professional for 18 years. Also in healthcare IT as well with data. So I have some considerations that I'd like Senator Yee to listen to as well.
I'm Eva Li. I'm president of Chinese American Citizen Alliance, Phoenix Lodge. We are a national organization. We actually established back in 1829, and we are a civil rights nonprofit, organization, which is trying to help, Chinese Americans. Nice to be here.
My name is Hua Wang. I'm two kids' mom. Very nice to meet you, Senator Yee.
Hi, my name is Wendy Wang. I'm president of the Hope Toastmaster in Hope Chinese School. It's my husband.
Hi, my name is Ting Wong, and I'm a citizen of the United States for 38 years, and I'm from Taiwan, but I just very wonder why we have to, so specifically, divided. You're the Asian, you're the Chinese, or you're the Korean, because what I'm thinking is, well, does anybody say, on the paper say you're the, French, or you're the, Dutch, or you're the, from Spain or Portuguese, right? So I'm kind of wondering.
Good.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica. I'm new here, so I just want to know more about America because before I come here, I heard about America is a freedom and equal country, so I want to know more about how to run the country. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Habib Li. I'm here just to support.
Han Yi Li. I'm here just because I have a concern on this topic.
Yeah, my name is Ao Jufang Ping. Actually, I'm from Singapore, but I would like call me Chinese, not Singapore Chinese. Right? That is so different. Different country give so many names. So I also do a lot of volunteer job of community. Also do a lot of support job of our councilman San Juan volunteer job. Nice to meet everyone.
Well, my name is Charles Qian, and I'm actually interested in farming and as well as painting. But this is so important, the topic, so I just decided to come here to support my wife.
I'm Jishao Shan. I'm an engineer at Intel. I just absent a VP's meeting. I'm here.
Oh, thank
you.
you.
I want to say I disagree your proposal.
My name is Lin Wen. I'm a member of Chinese United.
So I do have great concern, and it is super hard for me. I asked for vacation off, my boss wouldn't allow me, and I fight it, finally came over.
My name is Tina Wang.
My name is Melissa Yang. I'm a new resident in China. Today I'm very glad to be here to also familiar faces and interested topic today. Thank you.
My name is Zhiqiang Li. I'm here to show our concern and also we want our all Asian to be one group.
Yes,
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate. I'm Deb Gomez, and I'm really happy and honored to be Assistant to Senator Yee since 2013. We've had a really good time together, and I know that our office has spoken to many of you, so it's nice to meet all of you. Welcome.
And Deborah is a Filipino-American who comes from Hawaii. Well,
I was born and raised in Hawaii, but my roots also go back to China.
Yes, that's right.
Which part of China?
Well, great. Yes.
Let me put a suggestion. In this room, is anybody need a translator from the Chinese to English or English to Chinese? Can we use English for common language? Talk about
Sure.
If you need a translator, and we have perfect person, Cantonese, Chinese, Mandarin, and English, we can do.
All right.
But just in case.
Do we need that, or?
No.
Okay. I don't need to do that.
No need to waste time.
Well, I think this is a good opportunity for us to just go ahead and through getting to know what the bill is that we're talking about, because my understanding based on the briefings that I've had is that there is some confusion about various proposals that have been submitted around the country. And in fact, last night I was meeting with some people from Washington, D.C., and they were sharing with me that there are truly a number of proposals dealing with data in various states, and they're all uniquely different from each other. And so I think it's very important for us to talk about what is the bill, and it really is not a bill, it's a resolution. Let's take a look at, if you have a copy of that, it's Senate Concurrent Resolution 1012. A resolution is uniquely different from a bill because there is no force of law to the extent that there are no requirements that are submitted in the language. So I'm going to assume that all of you have read the bill. You've read the bill.
Yes.
And so the resolution provides a message to provide a statement that gives the public information about a critical issue. And this proposal was brought to me in my office last year by an Arizona organization, a health advocacy group, which Lloyd Asado is the executive director of. And I'd like Lloyd to provide us the name of your organization, the mission of your organization, and the reason, really, some background. I think it's important to note what you proposed and then later what we came to, because there is a difference in what the proposal was and then to what our office was able to move forward with. And I'll go into some backgrounds as well as the details of how we came to this resolution.
Great, thank you very much. So my name is Lloyd Asado. I'm the Executive Director of Asian Pacific Community in Action.
We are a community health organization based in Arizona. We were founded 15 years ago, primarily to work on, thank you, primarily to work on hepatitis B. At the time, if you remember in 2002, many of our community members were being impacted by liver cancer. And we were raising this concern. We wanted to provide better programming, better support, in particular for our communities. This was a time where the data wasn't very good. I think we were still learning about the causes of liver cancer. Now we know that liver cancer is the primary, the primary cause of liver cancer is the hepatitis B virus, that 1 in 10 Asian Americans and 1 in 8 Vietnamese Americans, 1 in 10 roughly Chinese Americans, and Chinese in China are chronically infected by the disease. We did not have that information back at that time. So that's the reason why Asian Pacific Community in Action was formed. It was really to provide information, to provide services to our community. Data is very important to our organization and very important to policymakers. Policy is driven by good information. And if we don't have good information on disease conditions, incidence rates, it's difficult for policymakers to provide leadership. It's difficult to know where to invest programming dollars, where to focus resources. Last year, worried because we're seeing rising rates of diabetes within our community. We know that diabetes is a particular epidemic in Asian American communities. Very little information is being presented. The World Health Organization ranks the top 10 countries that are experiencing a diabetes epidemic. Most of them are in Asia. One moment. We know that liver cancer, breast cancer, there are differences between subgroups. And so I approached Senator Yee last year. Should I talk about the original bill?
Sure.
The original request was to, again, recognize that there is a diversity within the Asian American community, that there are disease conditions that see higher incidence and higher mortality between breast cancer.
Yes. We'll give an example, for instance, in the Southeast Asian communities having higher risks of cancer because of their diet. So
because of their diet, perhaps through in some cases genetics might be related to that. We do know that the incidence and mortality, there are clear differences when those data are disaggregated.
Yes, I just have a very quick question.
Yes,
I think both of us already read the resolution and read the bill already.
Okay.
We are educated. But a very quick question is, you are not collecting medical data. You are collecting racial data.
We'll talk about that later.
Let me, so,
I
understand. So our original request was for the State Senate to ask the Department of Health Services to come up with a plan to track and analyze subgroup data, whether that is by race, disability, or other factors as they deemed appropriate. The cost of that was to be determined. This is we're in a tight fiscal year, and so we recognize that our request for a study, although we think it's a very good investment, we didn't have a source of funds. So we agreed through their leadership to the statement, which again I think further supports the need for better information so that we can have targeted.
without specific recommendations.
Without specific recommendations.
So we came.
Thank
you, Lloyd. So the advocacy group brought the original proposal to my office. We had experts from the field of health come in to take a look at what the proposal was. They take a look at what the cost and effects would be, and we clearly didn't have the budget for something to this extent. But even beyond that, we didn't really know enough information about what this is, the research behind it. So the best proposal that we could do in the time that we had, because session was beginning, was to go forward with a resolution. And the resolution, as you'll have it before you, is very simple. It's just about 30 lines, and it simply says and acknowledges that our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities are the fastest growing segments in our state. It shows the increase in population from 255,000 in 2010 to more than 322,000 in 2014. It also describes the national growth, which is 20.5 million people in 2014. So it goes through the last decennial census that revealed Asians and Pacific Islanders constitute approximately 5.9% of the total population. It also acknowledged that Asian Americans and Pacific Islander communities are among the most diverse group in Arizona, representing over 50 nations, speaking over 100 different languages. And it also noted that the current data doesn't represent an accurate assessment of the status and needs of the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. The data by many agencies, such as the National Center for Health Statistics, makes a generalization of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders under that single label. And this is what we were going to with Lloyd's statement regarding when you're trying to get educational health data to a specific group. Let's just use the Cambodians, because we just gave that as an example. You might need to take with you as an organization more diabetes and cancer education and heart-related health materials to that segment of our Cambodian community in Arizona, because we know that those types of, they have a diet that is uniquely different, let's say, from the Japanese communities in Arizona. And so those are the reasons why we need to have that health statistic. Now, when we go further into the resolution, it does talk about how the generalization of all Asian Americans under this specific title makes it difficult to analyze how these types of health needs are assessed. And that was a specific statement to get to what the problem is. It does not note the resolution to the problem, and that's very, very different from other states where they decided on a resolution, and their resolution was X, Y, and Z. I don't even know. There's so many different ones out there. It does indicate that these Asian American and Pacific Islander immigrants face challenges that can affect their ability to access critical services. That's why your health organization is there, is to provide that information to communities who really need that service. Whereas improvements in data collection and standards are needed to ensure the most consistent data by all of these issues, and then it was resolved with concurrence, which means unanimously, that the Arizona Senate and the House of Representatives concurring that the members of the legislature recognize the diversity within the Asian American and Pacific Islander populations and support improved data collection and analysis to reflect that diversity. Now, let me read that one more time. It says that these populations and we support improved data collection, not what type of data collection, but improved data collection and analysis to reflect that diversity. In this resolution, and I'm responding to some of the specific emails and calls to my office, there is no recommendation on how we collect that data. There's no budget to collect the data. There's no directive or requirement to collect the data. It is simply a statement to talk about the need of improved health statistics so that we can get to more critical health services for our Asian American communities, particularly our immigrant communities who may not have their hands on those critical health materials as readily as those who have been in the country longer.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that is the background of the bill, and it is uniquely different from the Assembly bill that is being considered, I believe, unanimously adopted in the Senate recently in California. That bill, just so you know the differences, had funding, and it specifically said these are the data points that you have to collect by various people in the state of California. This bill is nowhere near that. In fact, it's just a statement to talk about the importance of the data. There was no and is no specific plan to move forward with the health department to go forward with any health-related data. And there was never really that option because, one, we have a budget problem in Arizona and we don't have the funds to do that. Secondly, we don't have enough research to know whether this should be done at the state level or at various local municipal levels, because that can be done. Some states actually want more data, while other cities, choose to do what they want to do because they're locally elected. Arizona hasn't come to that point yet, and in fact, there may be continuing discussions on where this state or these various municipalities will go. But in this resolution and in my office last year with the experts in our office, we decided we're not gonna go to those places where other states have gone. So I wanted to put that just as a clarification, because it sounded like there were emails that noted we have already done that, and that in fact this was a directive. So I'd like to hear if there are specific points where you'd like to move forward with just the general idea of data collection, which I have heard, and I also would like to provide you an opportunity to discuss how we should move forward.
So I'll be presenting our case. So here. So we read all the responses we received from you, from Uncle John, graciously help us out in this case. Thank you very much, Uncle John. And it was a read response from Mr. Sato, right? So we feel like there has been a notion or impression that, in the Asian community, we might be misinformed. We did not understand this was a resolution. We did not know this already actually could not have passed because the House is already not in session anymore. We knew all that. We knew all that. We were not misinformed. The reason we're very concerned about this is because we have known this issue for far too long and far too well. I think first of all, we don't want to deny this is a very, very important issue for the Asian community. As you can see today, there's so many community leaders that are all here. This is apparently important. We have someone who skipped the VP's meeting, right? To come over here. I changed my flight schedule to fly from Canada early to attend this meeting. And we'll have someone come in just fresh off the boat, coming from China, thinking this is a land where everybody's equal, and finding out she may not be equal after all as an Asian. So this is a serious matter for the Asian community. And it's a big issue. And here are the people here, 50 or 60 people. I can safely say, from their organization, the name they presented, they represent a very large number of our community. So when we look at the legislation, or in this case, a resolution, I think everybody would agree we cannot just read the wording in a document, right? Any legislation, any proposal, any resolution will have all high-sounding reason to justify it. And we have to put it in context. We have to look at the legislation process, which you kind of explained earlier on. We have to put it into perspective. Look at what's happened elsewhere, what kind of impact this has created elsewhere. You just mentioned California. So let's put it into perspective to see the legislation process of Asian desegregation in California. So in 2014, it started out in California. The Democrat legislators, they tried to amend California state constitution. They brought in a constitutional amendment in the Senate. The amendment would eliminate the California constitutional provision that bans using race, gender, ethnicity, and country of origin in public education, in employment, in housing, etc. Why would they want to remove that provision? Pretty simple, pretty obvious. They want to use race, ethnicity, and country of origin as the criteria in school enrollment, school admission, in employment, recruitment. I think nobody can deny that, right? So because of the fierce opposition from the Asian community, especially the Chinese community and the Democratic legislators, that Senate bill failed, SCA 5 failed. So next year, the Democratic legislature tried again. This time, they changed the tactics. They proposed a bill called AB 176, which is just like this one, except it's more detailed because it's a bill. With more detail, calling for data collection onto all the Asian, newly divided Asian subgroups. The data collection in healthcare, in education, and employment. Now people want to ask, why do you want to do that? We'll talk about it a little later on. So this bill was actually passed in both Senate and House because of the majority of the Democratic Party. And then it was vetoed by California State Governor Jerry Brown. And the reason he vetoed this bill is, he as a Democrat, he voiced concern, his concern was, he's worried about the action followed. He's worried about what people will do using this data, collect on all these subgroups in healthcare, in education, and employment. He's worried what people would do. That's what we worry about too. So next year, the same Democrat legislator, they brought back the same bill, giving a different name but the same content. But this time, because of the increased public awareness of this, again, fierce opposition from Asian communities, especially the Chinese communities and Republican legislators. So in the end, they had to modify the bill by removing the wording about education and employment in order to pass it. In California, there were hundreds of thousands of people. And also, many legislators, also the author of the California State Constitution provision that bans race-based affirmative action himself, they all believe, judging by the legislation process, this Asian desegregation legislation only serves as a backdoor way to get around the California State Constitution, which bans race-based affirmative action, which bans the racial preferential policies. It's a backdoor. Their intention clearly, it's not just in the public health, it's also in employment and education. So, by removing those, the education employment, they were able to pass this bill, and the government signed it into law. So, we're concerned because we have all followed that process, right? Many of us, we knew about the fight back then. Many of us, we donated money to the legislator fighting against those bills. So we look at the process in California. Do we see similarity here? Do we see the trend here? Because this type of legislation, the Asian desegregation, has been spread out to the entire country. In New York, they're discussing it. Rhode Island already passed it. In Maryland, they're talking about it too.
So we're worried about this might be a signal for sending some kind of message to the state
Yeah,
of
we
Arizona.
fully understand, Senator Yee. This is just a resolution. It's non-binding. Yes, you know, nobody has to do anything because of this, but it set the tone for the future legislation. It sends a wrong message. So if we look at the, look at the resolution itself. When we present this to people, the first thing people say, this is divisive. Don't you think?
How?
How?
Show me where it's divisive.
Of course, it doesn't say it's divisive.
No, but where is it? Where
It is divisive, Senator. It already divided you from the rest of the Chinese community. Have you not seen that?
Can you show me in the language where?
The language will never say. The language all have, I said, in any of this bill, they all have the high-sounding reasons, have the glorified excuses. Like we want to improve public health. That's glorified excuses. That's the tactics they use to pass the bill in California. The clear intention to use it with employment and education. They knew they could not have passed the bill without removing those words. But that's their intention. It's pretty clear. They wanted to do it. I'm not saying that you want to do
No,
it.
and so I think that the intent is, as we had indicated, because if you could, thank you for the presentation.
Well, I'm not finished.
Okay, well, if you could, I wanted this to be a round
All right.
table discussion. So it would be nice if we could just go back to the intent, because I think you're putting, at least based on your comments, where our intent is to go from phase 2. And beyond
Can we
that.
talk about the intent? You mentioned that on line 19. Okay, language impact individual and community health. Can you give me one example of that? Speaking Chinese is better or worse than speaking English?
Oh, it has nothing to do with. Oh my
Well, that's
goodness.
your language,
Okay. First of all, I think it should be noted that I presented this bill because I am Asian American and I want to allow the Asian American voice to be heard. And it brought, this does not, okay, just so that I could verify what you just said. Do you think that this is saying that we should not speak Chinese?
No. You're telling me in this line that language impact individual and community health. That's the English.
That is correct. It does.
Okay, give me one example.
I can provide you with several, and I have this available in a PDF version. I'd be happy to share it with the group. But we do know that the ability to communicate with a provider, for a provider to communicate with the patient impacts their health. We see this
Do we
broadly.
always have translators?
But the ability to access translators, the ability to access. So you do agree that language could impact health? Which is why
I will disagree.
Okay.
Mr. Sato.
So
I think South American people has no serious problem.
Can I just jump in? I'm a kind of a neutral position. I don't support or I don't really have any strong position. I just feel like the initial motivation for the bill was not explained very clearly to us. It's just like this guy, he introduced the bill for some money to help the community, right?
Absolutely.
But we don't quite see the details of how he wants to help community.
And
If
that's
we
why
gave him $1 million,
there's no details.
yeah,
There's
if
no
the Senate
details.
has money, say if the budget comes through.
But I'm not going to be the sponsor of that
I know,
bill.
yeah.
I'm not going to be the sponsor of that bill.
I see.
So I want you to know that if you as a community or half of this room and half of this room don't agree that any data collection should be divided into subgroups, this is the meeting where you're telling me so. And I would not move forward with legislation
Can we
to that
understand
extent.
how many is for and how many is against?
Well, no, it doesn't matter.
I understand that you already said she would not move forward with
I wouldn't.
the bill.
All right. Because this is a resolution. It talks about the importance of Asian American health, particularly in our immigrant communities, where their voice is just not heard because they don't know how to navigate the system as well. And so who is speaking for our immigrants? And that's why this bill really was critical to our newer communities in Arizona, those who have not, maybe they aren't connected to a health insurance plan, maybe they don't know the best doctor for their family. And so this organization, which reaches out to those most needy communities, brought this so that we can reach out to those who are in need in our Asian communities. Now, there was no plan, and you can ask Lloyd, for us to regroup and say, okay, phase 2 is a budget, and we're going to, tell that health department at the state, this is what you got to do. No plans for that. And
Let's open the door.
sorry, it's not opening the door because this meeting is happening, and you all are telling me as an Asian American community that you don't want it to move forward. So we will not move it forward. That there were no plans to do that. If we were to move forward with any type of indication where we want to have better data, what would we do? We would have a community group. We would be able to have a public forum to hear out where that could go. Now knowing that it's all over the country now with such divisiveness, quite frankly, and we would be able to have that conversation. But what is important is that this meeting is happening to show that, well, clearly there is some confusion about, how are we going to move forward in Arizona? And so we want to make it very clear that at least my sponsorship won't be on a bill like that. I can't guarantee any of the other 89 members of this legislature might not do that. But Lloyd, if you'd like to, I mean, what are your intentions?
No, I would concur with what you stated. It was very clear that the bill to really work with the Department of Health Services was not going to be advanced. Although I would argue the merits of that is still present. And so hopefully, as we get better information, and hopefully bring you folks on to support improved public health.
I want to add some comment too.
But let me also, again, just to state, you're exactly right. There was no plans. This resolution is really the end of this effort currently. And I think another opportunity, I would love to invite you to our organization for a further conversation,
Sure.
going deeper into the details.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch
for
of
a
data
different,
that I can share with
for
you.
a different forum.
I have an answer for Lloyd's statement.
Sure.
Can I speak? I have a support of AZAA, his organization. I mean, I've been to your fundraising event. I really think you guys have done a wonderful job for our community. I appreciate that. Now, in terms of health issues, you guys were talking about earlier that Cambodia, they might have a different disease because of their diet.
Right.
So let me tell you that my family, I have 2 kids that I'm first generation Chinese, and we love Chinese food, especially the Sichuan food. Now, guess what? My son, they wouldn't, even want to have it. So each time we go out, or each time if they cook, guess what? Spaghettis, curries. So they don't really eat that much Chinese food, and they do enjoy Chinese food sometimes, but not all the time. So I'm saying that even though my son and my daughter, they are Chinese, but their diet has changed. Now, secondly, I want to talk about the disease. Now, disease is something that is so complicated, even though we're trying very hard, but it's very complex. Sometimes the diseases are related to certain genetics. Sometimes they may be related to race, sometimes they may be related to how they live. Now, sometimes, like valley fever, it really has something to do with where you live. So this is such a complicated issue. Whether it actually, it doesn't matter whether you live in Arizona or not. Even if you visit Arizona, you could get valley fever. Actually, a lady in Seattle, she sent her son to U of A, and she stayed probably for a few days, and she got valley fever, and that was disseminated into meningitis. She almost died from it. So what I'm saying is that disease is a complex issue. Now, if we want to collect data for patients, I'm okay with it. But it's just something like this bill is so general that it's collecting data for the whole population rather than just from patients.
It's also, we'll get to you in just a second. It's also important to note that we do have federal laws that protect, as you know, anyone in the health field will know, we have HIPAA. And it protects your patient information from being used for only your specific medical record by your permission. And we also have that, and this bill has never been about education, nor will it be, but we have FERPA, which is Federal Protected Education information, so that only can be used for an education setting. And there are very serious federal violations if you do, violate that. There, millions of dollars in federal funds can be taken away from organizations that do violate that. So anything moving forward, and it's not going to be by my sponsorship, but in bills that I have sponsored, I have always increased protections on patient health and patient education-related privacy data, because I believe that that is our data and that it should never be shared unless it was granted permission between you and your doctor or your educator. There was a hand back there if you'd like to.
Selena,
sure.
I wanted to share probably 2 thoughts from my perspective as a healthcare professional. I worked at Mayo Clinic for 18 years. I've taught a cultural competency class to ASU physicians about how to improve healthcare disparities across sub-Asian cultures.
So this whole conversation makes me excited. You know, it's really up my alley. One thought was, you know, from a Republican perspective, which I am, okay, my opinion is, you know, if big government needs to stay out of healthcare, then we just stay out of healthcare. That's kind of my first overall arching point is we would be contradicting ourselves. I'll just leave it at that. So I don't think big government should get into healthcare in general from a data perspective. But then at the same time, with Mr. Asado, I work with organizations like yours. So I met, you know, Senator Yee at an AZAA conference recently, and I represent the Mayo Employee Resource Group. We try to help share health, education, and awareness across Phoenix. So I want to talk to you afterwards because for the World Liver Awareness Day, right?
World Hepatitis Day.
Yeah, World Hepatitis on July 28th on Friday. You know, the way that we try to close healthcare disparities is outreach to community organizations, right? We're not going to wait for the government to do it. We certainly don't really even need them to do it because we have the network involved with the American Liver Association. So we're partnering with Mayo, we're partnering with Banner, we're partnering with the DA. It would be great to have you there too. But that's one thing that I see a disconnect in this resolution between the operationalizing of it. The tactical planning doesn't connect for me in terms of how is the data collection going to help with health disparities. Okay, so
That
for
was
me,
intentional.
I figured it can't be that detailed.
No, and that's because if we were to define a plan, then you have to define
Stick
a
with
budget
it.
that
Right.
goes with the plan.
Right.
So it really was truly to be a generalization of the importance of why why is it that we are having this discussion? It's because this is a critical health-related issue. And if we stand for better health for Asian Americans, we put this out. In fact, it was on Asian American Day at the Capitol, and it was so well received because, it was basically putting a light and shedding a light that Asian Americans come from 50 ethnicities. That is uniquely different from any other race that's out there, and there are over 100 languages. So that I think your points are right on because we didn't make specifics in this. That was purposeful, and it really was to say this is the umbrella statement that we are going to present, and others can go forward with how you go forward with those types of plans as they feel appropriate.
Agreed, and I think the risk that I'm hearing from the audience is the mere collection of the data doesn't improve the healthcare disparities. Like to me, understanding that you have 0.1% of Filipino in Phoenix, well, that doesn't help you reach out to them. So you know the number, it doesn't really help you. You actually need to connect, you know what I mean, like the tactical planning behind how do you reach out to markets. We already know if you Google healthcare problems with Chinese Americans, my parents, diabetic. I mean, so I'm not saying that data is not important. I work in data for 18 years. But the privatization and the collecting of that from a government perspective and trying to somehow connect it with health disparities, it just isn't there. And the risks are, in my opinion, I agree, too high. The risks are too high to use it for racial profiling, potentially. You never know. What if you leave office one day? I mean, it's one of those things where
That's what we're worried about.
once it's written down, it has other tentacles.
Allow me to make 2 points. Let's focus on the purpose we come here. First, I'm very happy that Kimberly Yee, Senator Yee already promised us she's not going to go forward about this. So mission accomplished. So I'm very grateful.
It was never a plan. It was never a plan. So it wasn't a change in a plan. It never was part of it.
Okay, and number two, I also feel pretty sad. If all the reason for the resolution is true, if all the reason for advocacy idea is good, then I feel very sad for the Caucasian people because they are as diverse, if not more, than we do. And we are not talking. We are not speak for the French Americans. We are not speak for Italian Americans.
So African Americans.
So African Americans. Why Asian all of a sudden become so important? Yeah.
I want
Thank
to
you.
say, as I know, we know hepatitis B will relative to cancer, not every hepatitis B. But we also know alcohol will make people got cancer. That's more make people got cancer than hepatitis B. The dangerous more than hepatitis B. And also chemical will make people got the cancer, the liver cancers, also very dangerous than hepatitis B. And also, so I think that's reason for research hepatitis B. That's not the true reason. And also, I want you to let people know the European people, they drink more alcohol than Asian people, especially in American this land. The European immigration, the more drink alcohol than Asian people. And they come from different countries from Europe. And different country Europe, the hepatitis differently. They take alcohol differently. Why you not separate them for research how to lead to cancer, liver cancer? And also, another thing is this sir, he wanted to help Asian people for the liver cancer. But we think what else he do? Actually, what he else do? Separate the Asian community. We think he first injured our psychology. Our psychology is not important. That's my.
Okay, now let me bring up some politics. Okay.
Sure.
So this piece of paper has 3 bills. One is AZAA 1012. The other one is Rhode Island bill, all students Count Act, and the last one is California AB 1726 data collection. And you take a look at the sponsors, all Democrats, and now the only one in Arizona is Republican. I am the Trump.
Actually,
let me finish, okay? I'm the supporter of Donald Trump and the Republicans. And my son tomorrow will meet the White House. So I talked to a group of Republican and Trump supporters privately, and they have the concerns. So therefore, I can, on behalf of a group, not all, of Trump supporters. Some are here, some are busy at jobs, and some are silenced. And I wrote an open letter to Senator Yee. So it's a little bit longer, but I could not remember the whole sentence, so I can read 2 paragraphs, okay? So this letter is written to express our concern on the resolution SCR 1012 introduced by Senator Yee. In our local Chinese community, as well as other Chinese communities throughout the country, we'd like to know the political motivations behind this resolution. Our concern is merely focused on the resolution itself, but we envision it will start to tear apart the Asian American community as a unity, which has been already a vulnerable group to become the victim of bipartisan politics. So this is the first paragraph. And the other paragraphs, concurring California passed AB 1726 data collection and Rhode Island H 5453 all student count act. This resolution is to follow suit without considering the damage to the whole Chinese American community and the consequence of causing a political earthquake within the Republican Party. According to how Asian Americans became Democrats by Catholic Robert Christian, the resolution SCR 1012 is an obvious continuity of Obama. We established the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islands in 2009, among other efforts that have contributed to the Asian American political realignment. It's far-reaching action that will unintentionally have Democrats for the purpose of turning Arizona from a light red state to a blue state. I attend the fundraising and the Republican politicians raised the concerns. In 2016, the political awareness and involvement among Chinese Americans in Arizona start to make a difference in city council, senate, presidential election, especially in supporting Trump's presidential election by initiating the flight advertise "AZ Chinese Americans for Trump," which was then spread to 32 cities in other states throughout the country. So therefore, the growing awareness and involvement bring us confront this resolution that will never be the mute distance anymore. So if we need to fight back as an equal rights again and closing, I think we will still fight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So just in response to this being, I'm the only Republican and these other bills, I actually think that that's great because, quite frankly, this is a bill that is a bipartisan bill. And I'm proud to be a sponsor of bipartisan bills at the legislature and have that ability to, as the majority leader, I sit at this table with the Republican caucus and they all agreed with me. All of the Republicans in my caucus agreed with me on this proposal. All of the Democrats in the Senate agreed with me on this proposal because it was not a partisan bill.
I have to say this will be imposed by Democrats. I read about politics, about American politics, bipartisan politics, and it's a strategy that Democrat Department Party try to encourage, try to divide the Chinese, the Asian community, because they will take over the Arizona as a state.
And partisan talk aside, Senator Yee, I sincerely believe that this particular topic, agency segregation, most state legislators at the state level, local level, they're not, many of them are not even aware of this. They do not understand what's behind it. They don't know. If we put all those, glorified wording on the document, and nobody has a reason to say no to this thing, right? If you read this, nothing wrong with it, but they don't understand the implication.
Yeah,
They don't know,
actually,
they can't envision what the data collected could be
I
used
do
for
not care
other
about
purposes.
blue or red. But since he mentioned Rhode Island passed a bill called All Student Account. So basically that bill directly go to meet. So basically, like Andy had said, in California, it have changed this way, that way, try to pass. So then Rhode Island passed directly called All Student Account. When I checked their website, it directly said they collect the racial data for higher education, for employment, for the future employment. So basically, my understanding is here, you mentioned this disease, that disease, it just cover up for that
Rhode Island bill that isn't introduced here in
that's my
Arizona.
understanding. So
let's go back to the intention.
So that's why
we're saying we're collecting data for the health, right? But Senator Yee, if you are going to see your doctor, and you would rather your doctor to look at your blood pressure and temperature and whatever to decide what drug to give you, or would you rather him to ask you, where were you from, and then prescribe something for you?
I don't know how that question has anything to do with
Because then why you pass this bill? I mean, why
This
is
is
this?
the point that this data collection would not have helped the public health either way.
Well,
It's
my point is,
prevented. I think that's the point.
healthcare does not need this data. So your intention is to help healthcare, but it's not healthcare.
So that's the
why do we need
assumption
it?
that this proposal would require that the doctor would ask you what your race is before, but nothing in here or nor my intent was ever to go in that direction.
Well, I don't
Then why you spend time
The concern says
to this?
in this resolution, actually, it does not, specifically say this is going to be used to improve public health, right? It actually says used to access critical services. So that opens the door to a lot of possibilities.
And Senator Yee and this doctor, you think you want to help us, but we want to tell you we refuse this help.
The bill has
We
been
refuse this
suggested
help.
by ABCA. ABCA is a specialist in community health. Why do you assume that it has to do with education? because we Chinese have been abused before in the United States.
Exactly.
And,
It's happening
and
right now.
we Chinese are now alert to being possibly abused,
Right.
but this is not a case of actual abuse.
No, it's
It is
happening
not
right now.
intended to be a case for possible abuse.
I know it's possible.
And the origin of this bill is from APCA, not from Senator Yee.
Actually, we should really appreciate it. This is a great opportunity. We understand each other. So I wouldn't.
I'm going to make a suggestion. Now, of course, Lloyd and his board they're going to have to determine this, but I think that this dialogue is it warrants public town hall type meetings through your organization, as this has started a conversation about what is important to the Asian American community and how we use or collect health data. And if your organization made up of various people, of the board, I know the various subgroups what I'm talking about, and they also have various occupational expertise, I think that would be a great dialogue to have through your forums, and they should be open to the public to be able to hear the concerns that we're, hearing today in this room. Would you agree?
I agree, and I accept the challenge.
Okay. So I don't want to question their intention, and I think it's great opportunity. We wouldn't have this opportunity to exchange. So now you actually understand more on what's our main concern. Even for the cost, you have really great cost, but compared to the potential that open the door for potential harm that causes us, it's overwhelmed much greater harm potential. Where I'm not saying you have the bad intention. And so and we as Asian American, we already have a small population. And for one example, if there is an election, right now if we have say 10% of the population, if we have the data breakdown to 5%, 2%, it's very easily for anyone to target us individually. And for now, maybe we say as Asian American, we support you. You have a great agenda, many people for that, but there are many people support you regardless because you represent Asian. So you get much more support. So once we break down to much thinner branch, we are much less likely to have a next view. We need you. And our poor kids, right now, the equal opportunity is to guarantee the access for the underprivileged.
Right.
But in Asian community, it's opposite. We already have a smaller part, and we have so many much more overqualified students. All our poor kids, we have to be 100 score above the white, and now we break down to smaller. Our poor kids have no opportunity.
So
better
now on
education, as
AZAA
well as for
application
employment.
page.
And I am the one doing the data collection for human resource and for employment. And our company do get data from directly.
So now in SU, if you want to apply for SU, you have to disclose your subgroup Asian information. Otherwise, you cannot apply. On the website, you cannot continue.
Yes,
So,
evidence.
You need to disclose if you are Cambodian, you are
you have
Vietnamese,
to
you are Indonesia, there's more than 10 items.
Sorry, and I do urge people, we don't think we should have emotion, and I think we should really thank we have this opportunity, and Senator Yee can hear our voice much better. And this is a great opportunity. We wouldn't never have, you probably never understand this. So we just let you know for future, whenever there is something, and you can consider why we're so worried about this.
Sure.
So this is
and just so you know, and I know some of you who have known me a while, I come from a background in education policy. I was the Deputy Cabinet Secretary for Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger in education policy in the state of California, the liberal blue state of California. And I was there when Ward Connerly and all of the Board of Regents in California were determining quotas and saying there's too many Asians in this university. And that was something, obviously, as an Asian American, we should be through our merit, through our education.
That's
those
right.
are the opportunities that we have through our higher education system, and there should not be quotas, obviously, based on race.
Yeah.
And so
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's a principle that I will continue to hold as I've moved from California, I held those beliefs in California, I continue to hold them here, and we have a red state here that I believe will continue to be a red state here in Arizona. And in fact, we have a legislature that would never even think about sponsoring bills that I have seen in Rhode Island or in California. They would never pass a Senate Education Committee. They would go inside a drawer, we call them, and never see the light of day. So I don't think that you need to worry about those types of proposals in Arizona. We don't elect people who believe that mindset. Jerry, go ahead.
Yes, Senator Yee, and member of the community, it's really refreshing to see this discussion from perhaps everybody's here really is for the benefit of the Chinese community or the Asian community. Yeah, we're here for the one reason is to make this a better community. And I think it's refreshing because when I ran for office back in the old days, we don't see much Asians. Now you guys get involved because that's an issue that drives you, that is very passionate about. Education, quotas going to college. But I think the intent here is that from Africa, I can go back a little bit in history, back when I was a commissioner for President Bush, 2001. I went to the state health department. At that time, Kathy Eaton was the director. I said, Kathy, what do you have for the Asian Americans? I have no data about your guy. You don't exist. That's true. Collecting data for medical reasons is very important for them to serve the community, for the state to serve the community, for the county and the city to serve the community. That's needed to do that. Because they don't know what data on you guys, what can they do to help you? They can't. That's how government works.
Why Asians are more important than other races?
This doesn't matter Asian. Anybody. Could be
why
Hispanic.
It's only on Asians.
Well,
that's my question.
Data cannot use their name.
Let me
finish.
Okay, I mean, let me finish. I'm not. Listen. My position is not for or against this thing. I'm just telling the history.
Right.
What this thing happened. Okay. AZAA, at that time when I did a forum here with the commission. And Dr. Xu was my chair for the health committee.
Yes.
And from there, AZAA came out of it, which is a great thing. And you've done a great job for the community, helping people that needs help. So that's the history that what some of this is coming from. But
refuse.
Hold on, it's okay.
I just want you guys to understand that everybody here on this table try to make this a better community.
That's
it's not
right.
something that against one or the other. We're here to make it better for everybody.
Here, right in front of me, there are two steps. Okay.
I know.
Okay, here. One is the summary of a health statistics, National Health Interview Survey. It has all the races, white, black, American Indians, Asians, Native Hawaiians.
It happens,
and then I have another set of data with the National Vital Statistics Report. And it's many pages. It has all the races broken into ages. Asians did not miss anything. Okay.
Thank you. Also, when I was the commissioner for the president, we travel around the country. And we go to different communities, the Native Americans, not Native American, the Hawaiian people, the Pacific Islander communities. There's so many different subgroups under Asian American classification. And they all need different kind of help. The Pacific Islander community have a lot of problem with diabetes and obesities. And the Hmong community have a lot of suicidal problem that you find out. So every community is a little different. And so for the government to deal with this, they like to have some data in terms of medical problem. Not saying I agree, not collecting data for the wrong reason, for the medical reason, yes you do, from patients. So I think here, the senator just said, she's not going to go far with this thing because your guys can just brought to her and she understand that. And she had no intent to do that anyway, number one. The bill was not intended to declassify or to, put you in a certain category. That's not what's intended. But this unintended consequences came out. Now we addresses it. We agree that we're not going to go forward, then we'll move forward. I think it's better for the community. I think we all done a good job. Frank and Andy and everybody else here have done a great job for showing up.
Okay, I want to ask one thing. So with or without this bill, what difference is making for the Asian community or for whomever? So if we get rid of this bill today, what is going to be different in Europe?
Let him finish.
You want, what do you think?
There's been several comments about the intent of this bill. What's behind it? The person to ask,
Yes.
APCA suggested this. APCA works with all Asian communities.
No.
No, that's not the true statement, though. Because we do not know.
I'm sorry.
Representing us.
Yeah, not represent us.
Are you saying that APCA does not work with a specific part of the Asian Pacific Islander community?
Most of us
We did
have
not
no
get
idea
involved.
that even happened.
We know this.
Ray, have you ever contacted
I'm
us?
sorry.
Have you ever talked to us?
At least we Chinese organization, we do not know.
I am sorry that APCA has not been as successful in reaching all of you as before. But you now all know that APCA exists, and you will be contacted by APCA if you leave your contact information in the future. But in terms of the intent came from APCA for Asian health in general. And in terms of whether or not information is important to medicine, in 1999, before my mother died, for several years I was taking her around trying to find a medical provider who could speak Taishan Cantonese, at least sufficiently so that it could be communicated to her what she needed to do for her health. APCA was invented after she died, okay? APCA has found out that many immigrant communities have the same problem. Nobody can translate for them. APCA has spent a lot of time gathering translators for all these communities. Now, you may all speak English fine. Does your mother speak English? Does your father speak English? Does your grandfather speak English?
That's a social
Sam, all I'm trying to point out is that language can be a barrier to getting effective health care.
Yeah.
And
I suppose that impacts only first gen. I understand, but this bill has nothing to do with that.
Let him talk.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Jeff Yuan. I'm the president of Arizona Chinese Association.
Arizona Chinese Association.
Yes. Now, time has been changed. Okay, your mother doesn't speak English, but our parents stayed in China. They do not come over here. So this is my point. So we are changed. Times change. Everything changed. Technologies change. Okay, we can Google. We can talk to the doctors.
Let me add one more point. So in last academic year, I took my son to be volunteer tutor at local Native American and Latino NGO. And we work closely with the students from the preschool to high school. They have the same language barriers. So bring out the language barrier is not the key to, okay, you can propose such a field to selectively collect Asian community data. Because behind the bill, we need to think about is there any uncanny political motivation. That's my concern because
that's the key.
I think it's very hard to poison our community. Try to split our community.
So, and that point is taken, that there is concern about a political motivation that I'm
don't know
hearing.
what the bill motivation because you didn't realize it. But they propose the bill and then you accept it and sponsor it. But behind the bill, are you aware that the other similar bill is sponsored by Democrats?
Right. But the other bill was so different than this bill. And if I can just be very frank, the proposal that was initiated to my office was not something that I was able to sponsor.
I think you need to have the political awareness.
And the political awareness
now it's bipartisan politics.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want you to know there is a terminology that we Republicans we use often when we look at these types of bills. It's called data mining. And data mining is bad. Data mining takes information and it's used for purposes outside of what the data was inputted for. And that's where I was giving you the example. when we have bills as Republican legislators in the Capitol, we put those bills away because they are sponsored by people who are not like-minded. And we've gone through numerous iterations of trying to get data, bills out of the legislature because nobody agrees on them. And even within a caucus, there are people who disagree on them. And so there is no newness, at least here, that this is a politically charged issue, which is why we went with a resolution rather than a plan of action. And Lloyd knows, I mean, I wasn't just born yesterday. I'm going to know what's going to pass this caucus and this legislature. And this was a bill that would pass this legislature to create the very important point that critical health services for our Asian American communities is necessary, and we need to provide that umbrella message with no specifics, no plan, no budget, but to be able to share with the communities of interest, we care about you. Asian Americans, we care about you.
Why don't we care about white?
We care about the all people. We were specific that we care about the Asian American community.
How about our feelings?
So you see,
We care about your feelings.
you did for 2 days. It's either today or around the noon we get this data. Strongly against the SCR 1012 is 281 person. Against is 12%. Agree is 1%. Strongly agree is 2%. Does not care is 6%. So basically, strongly against the 84.1%. Against is 3.6%.
Great.
So next time, you don't need data mining. You just need this group to have a
Can I make a proposal?
Yes.
I think what Senator Yee did before was a great proposal so that we can sit down together with
Yeah, the town hall meeting is a good suggestion.
But I also would like to make a suggestion.
Go ahead.
So that now that we saw that this is a helpful session, so could we, going forward, that can we meet with you, maybe have more of this, once a year or something like that?
Yeah, continued dialogue is always the best way to make policy. And in fact, I have various what we call kitchen cabinets, okay? So I will meet with educators around the state in my constituent, in my district, to hear. I'll go to schools, whether they be elementary schools, public schools, charter schools, all of these groups have an interest, right, in something. Well, why don't we begin our dialogue on an interest area of your interest? It doesn't have to be education or health, or it could be anything. And I think it would be a very helpful dialogue, not only just for the process as we go forward, but for civic engagement. I'm a huge supporter that everyone should be involved in our government. And in fact, I passed a bill that would require, that allows for all of our children to have more civics education in our schools, because they need to know, as young children, this is their house. This is the people's house. And the reason why it's important for us to have these types of bills is because we all pay taxes, right? Every time we purchase something, we're paying taxes. And those dollars go to this state of Arizona, and we determine what the best way is to manage those dollars in a prudent fashion. And so when we are talking about needs of our Asian American communities, I want to know what's important to you. I want to know if you care about education. I want to know if you care about this particular issue in healthcare or public safety or transportation and roads, economic development in the communities where you come from. And so all of those things are where we can begin that dialogue. I'm happy to host these types of meetings going forward. And so what we can do is we can organize with Deborah, and we can even open it even further. I mean, certainly, but this is just one group. We might need a bigger room. But that is an excellent suggestion. I certainly will get right on that. And just so you know, we have a legislative session that begins in January. And so going to January, we do research and study to determine what we're going to sponsor in that next session. And so this is the time period which we would do that. And so I think this is a perfect opportunity to begin that dialogue.
Great.
Any other closing comments?
No, one comment.
I want to make a comment from what I
Oh, Albert, yes.
I work for AZAA for a short time, and I collect data for hepatitis B. So I just want everybody to know the data is important in public health. That's another thing. I support everybody here, and as a Chinese, we don't want to divide more division, but public health need data. When I did my research in ASU and work for AZAA, and I got a conclusion that in Chinese community, if they have a language barrier, if they cannot get access to medicine or access to certain doctor, then the health status will get worse. That's my conclusion. That a study can be an input to get money, to get funding for the public health group. That's, I think, lawyers' attention. The attention is good, but the bill of the revolution, you said, is big picture, and under the big picture could be harmful for our benefit or something. The Chinese community just scared because we target in a lot of states as a new immigration, or we have a language barrier or different with another. That's why we scared.
Right, I know.
But we just want to say, lawyers' attention is good.
Yes.
I think the organization is necessary to be stay in Arizona to work for us. So
Great.
that's just one.
Thank you for your comments. And again, I mean, I am your only Asian American legislator in this legislature, the only one. And so I am your voice for issues, and I have to hear what you think in order for me to have the best information in front of me. And so that's very important to be able to have this ongoing dialogue. I know, Albert, you had raised your hand.
Well, I'm very delighted and very moved. And I count we have more than 50 today. And for an issue, a lot of people care about it. And just like Senator Yee mentioned, she is the only Asian legislator in the legislature.
Yes.
And I want to represent our group to say to Senator Yee, you will have always our voice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And from what I've seen it, you know how challenged to be a legislator. And we need a lot of people to follow her step, and we have Sam and get elected. We need more people to come in. And maybe not as a city council, not as senator, and we could join the board and the commission. And so we can get involved. And we need to get involved politics, in my opinion, so-called politics, a public service. It's a sacrifice in some sense. So I like to make a token contribution. We want to keep Senator Yee.
All of us.
No. I cannot represent everybody, and I cannot represent myself.
But Albert is
Thank you very much.
the president.
Senator, if I may, Albert, thank you very much. I'm just going to sit this down here. But may I
Yes,
just make
please.
a comment? And she doesn't need
I don't need
defending, and I'll talk about that later. But if I may, just a second, is that just by way of history, and Gary Ong mentioned that as well, is that this is exciting to see the passion of this community, of immigrants and others of different times coming to America, because we didn't have this passion in the community to care about issues. You care enough to participate in your government, as Senator Yee said, and I hope you continue that dialogue. But allow me to give you a brief history about the public government participation. First, in the history of Arizona, was in the 1950s, an immigrant from China, Wing F. Ong, was elected to the House of Representatives and later became a state senator. How unusual is that in the 50s? Think about that. You think this is a small population here. Back then, we were tiny. We didn't even exist except for a handful of people. And then he came back to become a United States Senator. And then not till 40 years later, into another Asian American served in this legislature. And that was me in the 1950s. I was lucky to have that opportunity. I'm not that old. But she served distinguished career serving for 2 California governors, Republican. And then she came back to Arizona and served in this body as a staff member in the Education Committee, and eventually became in the House of Representatives, and then elected to the state Senate, and then selected by her Republican. This is a caucus room. This is where all the Republicans meet here. They selected her as their leader. This Asian American legislator as the leader. The second only woman, female majority leader in the history of the state of Arizona. This is 1912 and still. And the first one was the retired United States Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor. See who she followed? Who she followed?
In 1973, yes, which was 44 years ago.
See how long it's been? So I just want to share this with you that you have nothing to worry about with Senator Yee. She's a respected, conservative Republican legislator. Her colleagues would not have elected her to represent all of them in this caucus. And that means representing smaller government, keeping government out of your lives, out of our lives as little as possible, small intrusion of government, controlling how we spend our money. That's conservative Republican. You do not have to worry about her motivation. And also somebody mentioned about why are we singling out Asian Americans in this bill. I think we should celebrate this bill.
No, never mind.
No. Allow me. Yeah. Everybody has their interpretation, and I respect that. Sam, allow me to finish.
Very quick, because I don't need to leave. I
only say that.
I don't mean disrespect, but I have meeting to attend. I need to drive back to Chengdu.
Sam, allow me to finish.
Okay, yes, of course, yes.
Is that along the history of the state and the legislature, because we were not active, we didn't exist in a political sense. APCA, Lloyd's organization, did not exist as well. So they're stepping forward in the community to represent Asian Americans and rising in the American system, in Arizona system. So now there's a voice, and also there's a leader here that's listening to voices. And everybody's going to have a different opinion like we have here. That's a good thing. That's American. This American system, a democracy, a republic called the United States of America. So I just want to leave it at that. This is a good discussion, and Senator Yee is open to, and we hope we have continued discussion, because as she said, is that to make law, to make policy, we need to hear from everybody. So thank you for your service.
Excuse me, I really need to go, so please give me 2 seconds, two sentences, okay?
Okay, can I just return this, please?
Okay, just go ahead. Okay, I really need to go back to Chengdu.
Because this is official business,
yes.
We cannot mix political with official business.
I can't do that.
For another day, another day,
appreciate
another
it,
day.
but it's just not legal, so thank you. Thank you.
I believe most people like to be held from time to time, and we do have some time we need to be held. So I admire APCA's work, I admire Senator Yee's work. But in some case, especially this case, please leave us alone. Thank you.
Go ahead. And you can ask your question. Just go ahead.
I'm president for the Chinese American Citizen Alliance. We are a non-profit, civil rights advocacy group. I just want to make an observation. Okay. Actually, with this resolution, personally, I support the resolution because I think I agree the data collection is important.
Thank you.
But I just want to make, first, with this bill, we say we are representing Asian Americans. And to be honest, in this room, everyone here except Lloyd and Senator Yee, assistant, all of us are Chinese. Asian American is actually included Japanese, Korean, a lot of other ethnicities. So there's nobody here to represent. So we can't say that we are here, coming here, we are representing Asian American. We are against this resolution. Where is the Korean? Where's the Japanese? Where is the Vietnamese? Should they have a say at this resolution as well? So I think everyone have to make sure, don't say that we are here, we're coming for Asian American. We are coming here as Chinese Americans.
So you're separating us right now?
No, I'm not separating, but I'm just telling you.
We did not say that.
Okay.
Well,
I want to thank everyone for attending. I will ask, Lloyd, if you could leave your information. Can you maybe put your phone or something, your website?
I'm sure they all have it. I've been hearing a lot from many of you. But I will, and I will put my information up there. I've been in touch with several now. We're going to meet on Valley Fever and some other, hopefully, areas of common interest. I look forward to meeting you. And tell me who I need to coordinate with on a town hall, particularly on this issue or broader on systemic racism or what you want to talk about. I'd be happy to come.
Great.
So thank you again.
Can I say something?
Don't confound the two separate Asia community.
Thank you, Senator Yee, for hosting this meeting. And I think today this is a very fruitful meeting for all of us.
Right.
Each of us has had an opportunity to express your opinions. And we have now, Senator Yee has clearly expressed her stance on this issue, and she's not going to push it anymore. So I think everybody should appreciate what we've got today. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so again, thank you so much, everyone. I think next time we need to have a tour of the Capitol. So
Cool.
why don't we organize, we can go to the Senate floor where you have to be guided by a member of the Senate. At the Senate, we have special rules. And so we'll organize that, and then maybe we can, have lunch or something where we can bring everyone here back on a time that works for everyone. Because I know that we have busy schedules, but we'll try to get a time where everyone can be here. And I look forward to that opportunity. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
And I will leave my cards here if you need my cards. I'll leave them right here. Thank you.